Breaking: Benjamin Netanyahu just embarrassed K-star in front of King Charles at a state dinner. That was supposed to fix diplomatic problems. Wei said next caused the biggest constitution crisis since the abdication. 3 cabinet ministers have already quit. Labour headquarters eyes in total chaos. And what leaked from inside Buckingham Palace and Star could bring down the whole of government. Internal polling shows Labour could lose 89 seats. If an election were held today, Conservative MPs are already preparing emergency motions. And the document that appeared at 11:47 this morning shows Starmer knew exactly what Netanyahu planned to say and walked into that dinner anyway. If you want to see how this ends, hit subscribe right now. Because what happens in the next 72 hours will decide Britain's future for the next 10 years. Here's what started the crisis. Tuesday night at Buckingham Palace, King Charles held what was meant to be a carefully planned state dinner for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The guest list looked like owls who have British power. Over 150 important people filled the grand ballroom. Chandeliers sparkled. String quartets played Handel and Elgar. Protocol did perfection. Every place setting was measured to the millimeter. Every wine pairing had been discussed 4 weeks. This was supposed to be diplomatic theater at its best. A chance to repair UK-Israel relations after months of tension over Gaza policy. Prime Minister Karmama sat 3 seats from Netanyahu. Placed exactly to avoid awkward small talk, but close now to show unity. The seating arrangement alone took palace staff of days to finish. But Netanyahu wasn't there for polite diplomacy. He was here to settle a score. And what he did next broke 70 years of royal protocol in under 3 minutes. It happened at 8:47 p.m. exactly. King Charles had just finished his carefully written toast about friendship between nations and shared democratic values. Polite applause moved through the ballroom. Guests lifted champagne glasses. The mood felt calm, formal, safe. Then Netanyahu stood to respond. Palace aides expected the usual nice words. Thanks for the invitation. Praise fourth crown. General comments about working together. Instead, Netanyahu looked straight at Starmer and delivered what witnesses call the most brutal diplomatic attack in modern British history. His exact words were chilling. Your Majesty, I thank you for this dinner. But I must speak clearly tonight because friendship needs honesty. Therein went silent. Forks stopped in the air. You could hear candle flames flickering. Netanyahu continued, his voice steady, but filled with barely hidden anger. For months, Prime Minister Starmer's government has questioned Israel's right to protect itself. They've delayed arms shipments. They criticize our actions while terrorists fire rockets at our children. And then your foreign secretary stands in parliament and lectures us about proportionality while British citizens enjoy the safety Israel gives the free world. The temperature in that ballroom seemed to drop 20 degrees. Starmer's face turned bright red. His jaw tightened so much that aides later say they thought he might crack a tooth. Several guests at nearby tables moved uncomfortably in their seats. But Netanyahu wasn't finished. He turned fully towards Starmer now, dropping all pretense of speaking to the king. Prime Minister, you speak of international law while ignoring the laws of survival. You criticize our operations from the safety of London while we fight to stay alive. Maybe before you judge Israel, you should ask your voters whether they'd show the same restraint if missiles fell on Manchester. Devastating, harsh, unheard of. A foreign leader had just crushed a British Prime Minister at a royal event in front of the king, breaking every diplomatic rule imaginable. The response was quick and disastrous. Starmer jumped to his feet so fast his chair scraped across the marble floor. The sound echoed through the silent room like a gunshot. His face was red. His hands shook. His napkin fell to the floor, and nobody dared to pick it up. People sitting nearby say he looked doonhing like a man who had lost control. How dare you? Starmer whispered loudly enough for half the room to hear. How dare you come into His Majesty's palace and insult the British government? Palace security stepped forward. King Charles lifted his hand slightly, a small gesture that stopped everyone in place. The king's expression, usually calm and neutral, flashed with something witnesses couldn't quite name. Shock, worry, or maybe something else. Some observers swear they saw the smallest hint of satisfaction cross his face before his usual calm returned. Lady Catherine Morrison, sitting 6 chairs away, later told friends, the king looked like a man watching exactly what he expected happened right on time. Starmer pointed his finger at Netanyahu. Israel doesn't tell Britain how to run its foreign policy. We don't answer to Tel Aviv or anyone else, and if you think embarrassing McCain's anything, you have badly misjudged. With that, Starr turned and walked out, not excused by the king. Not waiting for royal dismissal, just gone, his footsteps echoed down the marble corridor as 150 witnesses sat frozen in shock. His leaving broke 300 years of protocol in front of England's light and the future of British diplomacy. Behind him, the ballroom stayed silent for 12 full seconds before nervous whispers started. Several guests pulled out their phones. Event the protocol bandit. Within minutes, the world knew. Meanwhile, British veterans who fought for this country, who bled for this nation, who gave everything for the freedoms we enjoy, those men and women are living in disgrace. James Morrison, a 71-year-old Falklands veteran from Portsmouth, sleeps under Waterloo Bridge because the government that sent him to war can't find him housing. His war medals are in a storage locker he can barely afford. Last month, he told a local reporter he sometimes goes 2 days without eating. I defended the scoundrel, he said, his voice breaking. And now it has abandoned me. Stories like James's are in every town in Britain. Veterans waiting 18 months for medical appointments. Heroes living in multi-council flats. Soldiers who faced enemy fire now facing eviction notices. Terry Williams, 68, who served in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, lives in a small studio flat with black mold on fuels. His lungs are failing. Then Schweit list for treatment is 14 months. He was decorated for bravery twice and can't breathe in his own home. While Starmer lectures Israel about morality, British heroes freeze in the streets. The contrast is so shocking, so morally wrong that even lifelong Labour voters are turning away. But it gets worse. While James Morrison searches for meals and Terry Williams struggles to breathe, Starmer's government spent £1.2 billion last year housing illegal migrants in 4-star hotels. We're talking private rooms, 3 meals a day, laundry service, Wi-Fi, medical care, legal help, all paid for by British taxpayers. The Riverside Hotel in Leeds, a place that once served business travellers, now houses 180 asylum seekers at £120 per person per night. That's £21,600 per migrant per year. James Morrison's veteran pension is £9,400 a year. Migrants who broke the law entering Britain get more support than veterans who defended Britain with their lives. The unfairness burns. The betrayal hurts deeply. And that state at dinner humiliation just poured gasoline in a fire that had been burning for months. Photos online show that contrast in painful detail. Migrants playing pool in hotel game rooms while veterans wait in line at food banks. Asylum seekers getting free dental care while heroes wait years for appointments. The images are political explicit lies and Starmer's team knows it. Then something unheard of happened that nobody expected. King Charles, who had stayed still at the head table while Starmer stormed out, did something British kings never do. Stood up slowly, on purpose, with every eye in the ballroom watching him. Protocol says the monarch must stay seated until the event ends. Royal experts later said Charles broke a tradition, going back to Queen Victoria, but Charles walked across the ballroom to Benjamin Netanyahu and, in front of 150 witnesses, he reached out his hand, not a formal handshake, but a warm, long grip that lasted almost 8 seconds. Witnesses say Charles leaned in close and spoke in Netanyahu's ear for nearly 30 seconds. The words weren't on any microphone. The palace won't comment. But 3 different sources at that dinner, all speaking privately, report the same thing. Charles thanked Netanyahu for his honesty and said something about their truths being needed. One source says the king said, "Some lessons must be given in public, even when they feel uncomfortable." Another says Charles added, "Leadership means sharing what we do not want to hear." Then came the gesture that changed everything. King Charles placed his other hand on Netanyahu's shoulder, a sign of real warmth and support that protocol almost never allows with foreign leaders. Cameras caught it all. Within minutes, the image filled social media. The king comforting Israel's leader after Britain's prime minister stormed out like a spoiled child. The look was absolutely destined for Starr. Palace insiders say Charles was furious, not at Netanyahu, but at Starmer's behavior. The king spent days preparing for that dinner. One senior aide said he carefully wrote every word of his toast. He checked guest lists himself. He chose a menu to honor both British and Israeli traditions, and Starmer ruined it all with his outburst. His Majesty was horrified. Another source Savin. More. The relationship between the monarch and Thepram minister depends on mutual respect. Starmer broke that bond the moment he walked out. The king hasn't forgotten. He won't forget. A third police official, speaking on deep background, said something even more explosive. His Majesty has already told his private secretary to limit all non-essential contact with number 10. The weekly meetings will continue because the Constitution records them. But the warmth is gone. Starmer destroyed it. Royal protocol requires neutrality, but Charles's body language said everything, and every British citizen watching understood exactly what that shoulder touch meant. The Crown had chosen a side. Constitutional experts quickly started debating whether the king had crossed a line. Professor David Fletcher of Cambridge said the gesture was appropriate for the situation, but Sarah Thornton of LSE warned it could set dangerous examples. Either way, the damage was done. The image of the king supporting Netanyahu while Starmer ran away would define this crisis. The domino effect was quick and disastrous. By midnight, British embassy phones in Tel Aviv were ringing non-stop. Israeli officials demanded explanations. The Israeli news ran headlines like British PM shames Crown and Starmer's tantrum shocks Jerusalem. American news networks led with the story. Footage of Star's walkout played again and again, with commentators calling Britain diplomatically unstable. CNN aired a segment called Britain's Meltdown Month. Fox News commentators openly mocked Starmer's temper. Within 12 hours, £4.3 billion was wiped from the London Stock Exchange as investors worried about Britain's global position. Tech stocks fell 3.2%. Bank shares dropped to 0.7%. The pound fell against dollar, dropping to $1.24 from $1 to 8 in one trading day. Credit trading agencies quietly changed their Britain outlook to negative. Moody's released a statement showing concern about political instability. Then the political earthquake hit. Wednesday morning, Foreign Secretary David Lammy held an emergency press conference meant to control the damage. Instead, he made it much worse. Sweating under television lights, Lammy said Netanyahu's comments were wrong and unwelcome. But when reporters asked about Starmer's walkout, Lammy stumbled, stuttered, and finally said Starmer acted with the passion of a leader protecting British sovereignty. Passion. The word exploded online instantly. Twitter blew up. Hashtags like Starmer meltdown and passion not panic trended worldwide in 20 minutes. Even Labour supporters winced. Passion is what you call strong belief. What Starmer showed was anger, loss of control, and diplomatic failure on the world stage. By lunchtime, 3 junior ministers had quit. Environment Minister Sarah Clarke was first, her letter powerful in its simplicity. "I cannot defend the indefensible," she wrote. Housing Minister David Cheng quit an hour later. Then Education Minister Patricia Wells. Their letters, carefully leaked for maximum effect, all said versions of same thing. Cannot support a Prime Minister who embarrasses Britain internationally. But the real shock came at 2 p.m. when Defense Secretary Grenshaps, a top cabinet member, resigned. His letter was brutal. When the Prime Minister forgets his place on the world stage, he forgets Britain's interests. I cannot stand beside that failure. The letter included a paragraph that hurt even more. Our armed force deserve leaders who understand discipline, protocol, and respect. They get none of those things at Tuesday's dinner. Military veterans groups immediately supported Shap's statement. Labour headquarters fell into complete chaos. MPs created WhatsApp groups like Save Labour and Find New Leader. Messages flew back and forth hundreds per hour. Backbenchers who had been loyal for decades started giving anonymous interviews to reporters saying Starmer had lost control. One MP told Sky News, "We're watching a car crash in slow motion and nobody can stop it." Meanwhile, protests broke out across London. Outside Parliament, opposite monstrances clashed. Pro-Israel groups waving Union Jacks and Israeli flags shouted support for Netanyahu. Pro-Palestine activists yelled condemnation. And in the middle, a growing crowd of Britons held signs reading Starmer out and arrest her dignity. Police estimated 8,000 protesters by Thursday afternoon. Traffic around Westminster froze to a halt. The Metropolitan Police sent in raid units as tensions grew. Threats were made after fights broke out near Downing Street. The polls confirmed the nightmare. A survey showed Labour support falling from 38% to 31% overnight. In Jewish communities, usually Labour strongholds, support dropped by 40 points. In Hendon, Finchley, Golder Screen areas, Labour held for decades, the party faced total whip-out. Even in working-class Labour heartlands, approval fell 12 points. This wasn't a bad news cycle. This was a party-destroying disaster happening in real time. Inside 10 Downing Street, the mood turned toxic. DOP ministers yelled behind closed doors. Aides leaked damaging stories to friendly journalists to save themselves. Coffee cups sat untouched on desks as staffers hunched over phones dealing with non-stop crises. At one emergency cabinet meeting, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner reported licking from Starmer directly. "You've destroyed us," she said, her voice cold with anger. "Everything we built gone back as you couldn't control your temper for 3 minutes." Starmer fired back, witnesses said, blaming Netanyahu, blaming the press, blaming everyone except himself. At one point, has supposedly slammed his fist on the cabinet table and shouted that Israel would regret embarrassing him. Theron went silent. Several ministers looked at each other. This was leadership. This was a man losing control. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, normally Starmer's closest ally, sat stone-faced throughout the whole meeting and said nothing. Absolutely nothing. When I tended, she walked out without speaking to the Prime Minister. By evening, she was in private meetings with senior MPs. No one needed to guess what they were talking about. Veteran Labour experts who have seen leadership crises before said this one felt different, faster, more brutal. "Normally these things take weeks to build," one former minister explained. "This is 48 hours from incident to total collapse. I've never seen anything like it." WhatsApp groups with names like Last Resort and Emergency Plan, filled with messages from counting numbers for a vote of no confidence. The key number is 67 signatures to trigger a leadership clinch. Sources say 52 MPs have already agreed. Another 20 rune decided. The question wasn't if they'd move against Starmer. It was whether they'd do it this week or next. And then another name started appearing in those group chats. A name that sent shivers through the Labour old guard but brought excitement to younger MPs. Wes Streeting, the health secretary, popular, well-spoken, capable, quietly gaining support for a leadership run nobody expected. Streeting's team denies any plotting, but multiple sources say he has been in non-stop meetings since Wednesday. One shadow cabinet member said Wes isn't planning a coup, but if one happens, he'll be ready. That readiness might be enough, but here's the part that could end not just Starmer's career, but Labour's trust for a generation. Leaked WhatsApp messages said to be from Starmer's own phone appeared on social media late Wednesday night. The source is unknown. The Palestinians' involvement. Israeli intelligence says nothing, but the messages, if real, are damaging beyond repair. In one exchange from 3 weeks ago, Starmer allegedly wrote to his chief of staff, "Charles is getting too comfortable with Farage and his group. We need to remind Palace who really runs this country." Another message, sent days before the Netanyahu dinner, supposedly said, "Let Netanyahu come. Let them perform. I'll smile for the cameras and he'll leave knowing Britain doesn't bow to Tel Aviv anymore." A third message, timestamp 6 p.m. Tuesday, just hours before the dinner, allegedly reads, "If Netanyahu wants confrontation, he'll get it. This government doesn't back down." If the messages are real and if they show what sources claim, then Starmer didn't lose his temper. At that dinner, he planned confrontation from the start. He used King Charles's event as a stage to embarrass Israel publicly. Think about what that means. A British Prime Minister used royal hospitality to score political points, disrespected the Crown's careful diplomacy, and caused an international incident on purpose for domestic gain. The optics of that would be completely devastating, not just for Starmer, but for every Labour MP who supported him. Every cabinet minister who defended him. Every party official who said his walkout was just to feed passion. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned damage to Britain's international relationships, and it was done using the king as an unknowing prop. Digital forensics experts are already studying the screenshots. If they've been real, they could lead to criminal investigations for abusing royal events for political use. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is watching this collapse with barely hidden joy. While Starmer's Labour tears itself apart, Farage's Reform UK looks more serious everywhere. Thursday morning, Farage held a press conference in Westminster. No shouting, no drama, just calm, clear words said with sharp precision. While Prime Minister embarrasses Britain on the world stage, Reform UK stands ready to restore dignity, defend our allies, and remember who our friends really are. The camera cut to Farage beside British and Israeli flags. The symbolism was perfect. Here was a man defending tradition, alliance, respect, everything Starmer had just ignored. Reform UK's membership applics crashed their website within an hour. The party had to hire emergency IT workers to handle that traffic. Over 47,000 people tried to join in one day. Smaldoners poured money into the party. Donations reached £1 million in 48 hours, more than Reform UK had raised in the last 3 months combined. And for the first time in modern British polling, Reform UK hit 28%. Just 3 points behind a collapsing Labour Party at 31%. The Conservatives, steady at 27%, watched happily as their main opponent fell apart. Party chairman Richard Holden couldn't hide his smile during a Thursday morning TV interview. This wasn't a three-way race anymore. This was Reform UK becoming a real contender for government. Farage wasn't a protest vote. He was a possible Prime Minister. And every hour Starmer stayed in power, more voters switched to Reform. That change was stunning. Just a week ago, political experts dismissed Reform UK as a fringe group. Now, serious commenters discuss Farage coalition governance. The BBC invited constitution experts to explain how Reform UK could actually lead the country. The polls told the story. Labour had dominated British politics for 2 years. Now they were falling apart faster than any party in modern history. And Nigel Farage, patient, smart, ruthless, was their talk at every voter they lost. The next 72 hours are extremely important for Britain's future. Monday, Parliament returns from recess. Labour MPs face a simple choice: support Starmer or remove him. Sources inside the parliamentary party say 47 MPs already agreed to force a leadership challenge. That's not rumour. That's confirmed. If just 20 more MPs join them, Starmer faces a no-confidence vote in his own party. Meanwhile, international pressure grows every hour. The White House had privately warned Downing Street that US-UK relations need stability. Secretary of State Antony Blinken reportedly called Foreign Secretary Lamy and expressed deep concern. France and Germany really said carefully worded statements about respecting diplomatic rules. President Macron's office released a statement stressing the importance of proper behavior in international alliance. Even Commonwealth countries, usually silent about British internal issues, expressed concern about the monarchy being dragged into a political scandal. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's spokesman said, Ottawa expects Britain to follow diplomatic standards. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong called the incident regrettable and harmful to Western unity. Britain isn't just watching a government collapse. Britain is watching its world reputation fall apart in real time. This crisis will be studied for decades. Asked moment a prime minister forgot that diplomacy matters. That protocol exists for a reason. That Britain's strength comes from stability, not drama. At its center stands Starmer, isolated, defensive, holding onto power that is slipping through his fingers like water. History will remember this as a dinner that destroyed a government. The question is, what comes next? Will Labour find the courage to act before more damage is done? Will King Charles remain silent? Or will palace frustration grow into more visibly actions? And will British voters punish Labour for this humiliation by giving power to Nigel Farage's Reform UK? The pieces are moving. The chessboard is out, and Britain's future hangs in balance. So here's what I want to know. Does Starmer survive this, or is finished? Does King Charles Gister mean more than the palace settlements? And could Nigel Farage actually become Britain's next Prime Minister? Drop your answer in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story shocked you, share it with Ryan, who needs to understand what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media won't tell you full truth about this crisis, but we will. Hit that subscribe button, because the next 72 hours could change Britain forever. Next video drops in 24 hours. And what we've learned about those leaked WhatsApp messages will blow your mind. The authentication report from 3 independent forensics firms just came back, and the results are absolutely explosive. This story is far from over. The end game is just